Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of APAC News Network, we would like to welcome Rahul Kurkure, the head of Cloud.in in India. This is just briefly for your information, Rahul. APAC News Network is a media organization headquartered out of Noida with a pan-India as well as an outside India presence across Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So we primarily focus on coverage of technology deployments across verticals like government, healthcare, education, BFSI, then startups, the SMB ecosystem, as well as overall enterprise technology deployment. So today we would like to get an update on the Cloud.in business model, the solutions and services that are in your portfolio. So the best way perhaps to start would be if you can briefly take our audience through the genesis of Cloud.in, and then we'll take up specific areas from there. Rahul.
Sure. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Rajneesh. Thanks for the introduction and thank you for having me on the show today. Let me quickly kind of introduce Cloud.in. Cloud.in is the brand name of Hosting Services Private Limited. Hosting Services Private Limited is a 22-year-old organization. We started our journey way back in 1999. And in last 22 plus years, we have kind of gone through a lot of transitions and transformations. So if you look at our history, right, we started from the Web 1 and today we are there in Web 3. When we started initially, we were mainly focused towards the online businesses. There was a time when Web 1 was kind of booming and we were predominantly focused on the NRI market towards online portal business as well as towards the online ad serving and related solutions. Then slowly we kind of transitions into the managed services business. And in 2008 or so, we kind of moved to the SME hosting business. And in 2012, we moved to the private cloud business. So we were one of the early starters to actually have our own private cloud setup based out of India. We experimented with the cloud for next 3 years or so. And then in 2015, we rather started our public cloud journey and we officially kind of launched Cloud.in. Okay. Today, Cloud.in is a multi-cloud solution provider. Having said that, right, we predominantly work with Amazon Web Services as an advanced consulting partner, as well as the public sector partner and the solution provider. We have a lot of experience and expertise when it comes to the AWS ecosystem. But small team, but with strong set of skill sets around the public cloud, specifically around the AWS cloud.
Okay, thank you. So, what I would like, you mentioned as an AWS public cloud solution provider, you are partnering AWS now. So overall, if we look at the current Cloud.in portfolio, product and services portfolio, the earlier private cloud platform you don't have that now. That is one part. And second, I would like to understand, since you are mentioning, and typically now enterprises are looking at a multi-cloud kind of deployment. So they will have some applications on public cloud like AWS or an Azure maybe. They will have certain applications on private cloud. Some applications might be on the edge. And then even public clouds might be from multiple vendors. And then there is an ultimate management framework to manage that scenario. So what are the dynamics in that scenario? What are the dynamics where Cloud.in is you deploy your solutions amongst these enterprises? How do you go ahead with that?
Sure. So if you look at a journey, right? I mean, we have been kind of coming from the traditional hosting background, and then we have kind of experimented with the private cloud, and now we are kind of focused on public cloud. So we have good amount of experience and exposure to all the traditional data centers, as well as the cloud based setups. And considering the fact that over a period we have garnered and gained a lot of experience around the various other clouds, right? We are able to help customers with various set of solutions, whether it's the AWS, whether it's the other public cloud providers. Now, key advantage or the key benefits that we are kind of able to offer to our customers is basically the fact that we have extensive experience in terms of managing the traditional workloads. Second thing is that we are kind of small and niche organization, focused on providing personalized services to our customers. And we are anyways technology driven kind of organization, where we have our own in-house kind of multi-cloud management solution. Plus we also have our own multi-cloud kind of billing management solutions. So when it comes to the enterprises or organizations which have larger footprint, or which have their infra spread across multiple clouds, or have their own set of data centers, we understand the entire ecosystem, and we have that right set of tools and technologies to manage all that. So essentially, we are trying to be the one-stop solution provider who can help small and medium-sized businesses, or mid-sized enterprises, in terms of managing their online footprint.
Your primary focus, then we can say, has been only the mid-size enterprises and the SMEs, if I may say, not the larger enterprises.
Yes, primarily we have been focusing on the mid-sized enterprises and the SMEs.
Okay. So now the immediate question that comes to mind is, looking back at the last couple of years during the pandemic, the way things panned out, that's applicable for the larger enterprises and more so for the SMEs. What we had seen, a lot of initially work from home, then work from anywhere kind of scenario came up. What that meant was the pattern of workloads drastically changed. Suddenly, especially since you are working closely with mid-sized enterprises and the SMEs, what was the impact of those change in workload patterns, and how did you help your potential customers during that scenario?
Sure. So pandemic has kind of really impacted a lot, when it comes to SME businesses, right? Or the mid-sized enterprises, probably they were largely impacted because of pandemics. Larger organization enterprises probably had were better prepared, had their own set of resources to kind of manage the impact of pandemic. But if you look at the other smaller players, they were really not prepared for it. Earlier, it was all about either B2B or B2C, or perhaps B2G kind of thing, right? The environments. But with pandemic, it all kind of changed and transitioned to home to business, home to consumer, or maybe home to government, and the security become paramount kind of importance for all these players. Most of our customers were really kind of not prepared to kind of tackle this kind of situation, and we have kind of helped them do that smooth transition from the their on-prem or their traditional environments to the cloud environment, and integrated security and offerings which allowed them kind of manage the impact of pandemic without no too much of hassles, or without too much of impact kind of thing. So we help them with the security thing, we help them with the with the connectivity pieces, we help them in terms of some quick migrations, we help them in terms of the media kind of solutions. So during pandemic, we have kind of helped a lot of our SMB customers with this kind of solutions. That's one segment. other segment, like a lot of our customers are also from the media and entertainment verticals. A lot of customers are also from Edtech, and with pandemic, they also had a lot of impact, and suddenly they had seen a dramatic increase in terms of their consumption, in terms of the kind of workloads that they were running. So we have also kind of helped them in terms of scaling their infrastructure, in terms of uh, 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 managing the on demands, right, real time demands and all.
Okay, thank you. Some of the challenges that you mentioned and the initiatives that you undertaken, I'd like to focus on the security aspect. Now, security again, during the pandemic, what we have seen is with employees working from home, working from anywhere, a lot of heterogeneous devices came into the network and the system, with the possibility of the security itself getting compromised. And considering that most of these SMEs and mid-sized organization not always have a very tech savvy internal team. They might not have a CISO and his team. So there, the security challenges perhaps gets magnified. So how did you help maintain those security issues and basically?
Sure. So when it comes to security, right, there were three set of clear offerings that we kind of quickly found for our customers. First was the offering that could help them in terms of managing all the remote connectivity for their teams, and we kind of bundled in a such a way so that customer did not really worry about the deployment, or we standardized the entire connectivity piece for our customers to the package bundled offering for the connectivity piece. Second thing like that we did is that, right, with the pandemic, and a lot of guys going online, a lot of systems were kind of exposed to internet. A lot of things kind of changed. So there we kind of came up with the edge security bundled offering, where we kind of integrated a security at the edge, and provided a solution that could protect customers at the perimeter level itself, irrespective of whether their infra is running on a particular cloud, or whether it's running on-prem. Right? We help them with the edge security bundle. Third thing that we did is that we have an in-house tool, a security auditor piece, that we kind of use to run regular scans across customers infra that are there, so that we could kind of help them identify any gaps that are there. Because with pandemic, a lot of customers had to open access for their employees. A lot of things were kind of done on ad hoc basis by customers. So with the security auditor piece, we were kind of quickly able to capture this kind of gaps, and highlight those, and then protect our customers. So I think these three offerings kind of helped us in terms of securing a very set of customers that we target.
Okay. You mentioned at the beginning on this last answer about those connectivity package, sort of this bundled offering that you provided to your customers. Now, I have two questions here. Again, when you deal with SMEs and mid-sized organization, perhaps other than the security, the two biggest challenges is they might not have a CIO and or even if there is some IT head, some admin person maybe, they might not have a very tech savvy team to manage. That is one, and the second is the economics, the affordability issue. Looking at these, what I may say, the usability and the affordability. How did you sort of help the SMBs in these two aspects?
Sure, great question, right? I mean, everybody wants to save kind of thing, right? I mean, in pandemic, things were so different. Everybody was not sure, what's going to be in future, and everybody wanted to save, and at the same time wanted to make sure that they have the best possible solution at the lowest possible cost. But if you look at our background, right, we come from that traditional SME hosting business point of view part. And that's where we really understand, right? The cost is the key factor. Affordability is extremely important, and that was the reason why we came up with the packaged kind of offering, where we leverage the open source solutions. We leverage the solutions that are low cost, so that customer did not feel the pinch, or don't have to kind of go over budget when it comes to the connectivity piece. So that's how we kind of tackle the commercial aspect. Coming to the tech part of it, right? Or the fact that many customers don't have in-house expertise, and that's the kind of reason why actually they kind of outsource services to us. So that's where we kind of help them with a very simplified solution, so that they understand the advantages and benefits, and the fact that we use standardized solutions, so that they are confident that, right, the solution is priced right. At the same time, it's offering the security that is kind of required. So that's how we kind of manage the usability aspect. We manage the commercial angle for customers.
Okay, so how does that translate into your go-to-market model? You are saying you offer these packaged model, packaged solutions to the customers. So, what is a go-to-market model you follow with these customers? Is that sort of a legacy from your SME hosting, or how has that GTM evolved?
So the definitely legacy hosting, or the traditional background that we had. But with the cloud, obviously things are different. When it comes to the GTM, we have kind of looked at the various pillars when we kind of designed or decided our GTM. First thing is that we have make sure that we have the right kind of resources and people and system who have the right kind of skill sets and competencies and certifications, so that when our team is kind of working on any of the solutions, right, the customer is fully satisfied and is aware that they are talking to the qualified people. So skills is one thing that we have kind of first focused on. Second part is that, right, affordability or the price point. That is something that we have always focused on. We have always tried to make sure that, right, the solutions are affordable, and solutions are scalable. So as the customer is growing, the commercials also kind of vary based on the customer's growth. If customer is for some reason scaling down, or is being impacted, the commercials also accordingly kind of scale down. So that's another strategy that we have been kind of following. A third thing is that, right, we have always tried to address the segment which has no pain points, and which is really in need of these solutions. So our GTM approach is always that reach out to the customers who really need your services and support. We don't do the hard selling, and we have been always saying that, right. Our customers are our marketing team, and our service is our sales team, and that's the key principle that we have been following whenever we are trying to kind of market our services. Another aspect is that we have a fixed set of customer segments, or verticals that we have been kind of trying to target, where we have a good amount of experience, expertise, and proven use cases. So that's how we have been kind of focusing on the market.
Okay, so can you elaborate on, you mentioned earlier about media and entertainment and edtech as two verticals, but this in your go-to-market model, you are talking about these vertical based solutions that you have. So can you elaborate on the verticals and maybe the use cases of some of these vertical based solutions?
Sure. So let me address the first the first vertical, which is basically media and entertainment, right? Uh, 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 in last couple of years, suddenly the media and entertainment segment have totally evolved. If you look at the media and entertainment vertical, we can probably look at one is the OTT segment, and other is the kind of gaming kind of segment, right? In terms of OTT segment, we have kind of developed a content delivery network based offerings. We have developed media solutions around the media pieces, solutions around the live streaming, solutions around the convert media conversion and all. and we have kind of helped a lot of OTT players, a lot of media companies in terms of deploying scalable infrastructure, in terms of designing next gen kind of serverless architectures, and help them kind of manage the kind of traffic that they were getting. So that is how we kind of address the media entertainment segment. When it comes to gaming, we kind of help them with the low latency kind of infrastructure. We help them design solutions where a response time can have kind of gone on dramatically, right? And the infra is kind of scaling based on the users on the platform, based on the kind of events that are happening. So that's how we also kind of help the gaming vertical. Now we have a lot of use cases in this segments, where we have kind of help customer scale dramatically and drastically. I'll give you a classic example, about the short video services, with the ban on the short video services, from the international players, right? Or the some of the countries. Suddenly there was a demand for Indian short video services provider, and these guys had never anticipated that they would be getting lakhs and millions of visitors or registrations in a couple of days. And we actually kind of help them manage that, right? On a scale, by implementing the right set of media solutions on the public cloud platform, specifically on AWS. And we also kind of give them commercial advantages and benefits, because of the fact that we already had certain set of larger commits and business models around that. Other segment that you mentioned about was the Edtech piece, where with all coaching classes and everything kind of moved online. We help them with the live streaming kind of solutions. We help them with the classroom kind of solutions. We again help them with low latency kind of solutions, where customer can have one to many kind of interactions with really low latency, can have a near experience where it's as good as the traditional classroom kind of environment. So that's another segment where we have kind of helped a lot of customers. A lot of customers kind of benefited because of the edtech solutions that we have kind of offered. The multiple use cases that we have around this, and some of the leading names, right, who are out there, have actually kind of are using our services and seeing these benefits on day-to-day basis.
So, can you name some of the marquee customers? And also, I wanted to understand beyond media and entertainment and edtech, if we look at the SME or the mid-sized organizations, there are different business clusters across the country. I think 28 or 30 business clusters where the SMEs or mid-sized organizations are concentrated. Do you have any go-to-market approach to reach out to organizations in these clusters beyond media and entertainment and OTT? And also, if you can name some of the marquee customers.
Sure. So let me address the first question. No, I would really love to name the customers that we have, but just because of the NDA reasons and all, no, I would not be able to kind of disclose the names. But having said that, right, if you look at the top 5 e-commerce players out of in the country right now, 2 are using our services. The leading payment gateway solution provider is using our services. Leading grocery store provider is using our services. Leading edtech platform 2 out of top 5 again are using our services. Leading automobile kind of a company is using our services. But leading international player from a manufacturing is using our services. When it comes to IT software, leading security company out of the country is using our services. So we've been really fortunate to have a lot of good names, lot of good brands who are kind of using our services and are actually kind of seeing benefits. Besides that, if you look at the OTT players and the short video services companies, right? uh, six out of 10, they are kind of using our services. So we have a lot of customers who are there in these segments, and we've been following that traditional 80-20 kind of with all these customers. uh, Coming to the second part that you mentioned about the various SME clusters that are there, and whether we have any plans around kind of reaching out to those customer clusters. Right now, we are predominantly focused on the western part of country, and we are also trying to see expand in the south part. Having said that, we do have customers who are spread across country, but most of the customers who are spread across country are typical mid-size enterprises that we kind of cater to. Coming to the SMEPs, the SME customers are predominantly focused in the western part of country. We To address their needs and their requirements, we are kind of coming out with the packaged bundled offering, which would kind of help them in terms of securing their online presence, securing their infrastructure with their security offering. And we kind of intend to go live with this security solution before in next month or so.
Next question would be, you already initially mentioned that you have been primarily working as an AWS partner. Now, my question is, if we look at the SMEs, is it an exclusive AWS relation that you work with, or depending upon Azure or Google or whoever the SMEs, because SMEs use these public cloud platforms. So, are you open to supporting them on the likes of Azure or Google also, or are you an exclusive AWS partner only?
Sure. At this stage, if you look at us, right, we have partnerships with all cloud provider. Having said that, we have taken a strategic decision that we would stay focused on AWS, and because we have deep set of skill sets are available around AWS, and we have a small team, right? So we definitely want to continue having a focused approach to technologies. So at this stage, we are predominantly focused on AWS, but going forward, as we scale, we would definitely be looking at other cloud options, and would be supporting our customers from those clouds.
So currently, what is the infrastructure that you have? That's in terms of locations, resources, and everything. What is your current infrastructure? How does it look like?
Sure. So currently we are based out of our headquarters out of Pune. We do continue to have our small data center setup and the private cloud offering for some of our existing customers, long customers, that is based out of Pune. The Most of the team is kind of based out of Pune. We are right now at a level of 55 to 60 resources, all certified and skilled around the AWS clouds. And we do maintain sales and marketing presence outside in Mumbai, as well as in the Bangalore and other cities.
Okay. And in terms of initially, you mentioned if we look at your legacy, you have even provided, you have worked as a managed service provider also. So, other than the AWS support that you provide, what are the services, or are there any other services that you are offering to your customers? Since you have your own data center, also you are mentioning. So, do you offer any other data center related services to your customers?
Sure. So we actually, as I said earlier, right, we come from the traditional SME hosting background. So we ourselves run an accredited domain name registrar, and the shared hosting provider, as well as the email solution provider and collaboration provider. We have close to 22,000 plus SME customers who are actually spread across country, and these are part of our domain name and other portfolio offerings that we have. That's one segment we definitely continue to do, but it's a very small part of a business that that's there right now. Second part is that the data center setup that we have, it's a colo setup that we run out of the, from Pune, and that particular setup is primarily it's a PCI compliant kind of setup, which is used for some of the payment gateway and niche kind of customers. So if a customer has a certain kind of compliance related workload requirements, we continue to kind of cater them or service them when it comes to the data center kind of services.
Okay. And lastly, if I may ask, if we look forward to the next 4 to 5 quarters, what are going to be the key focus areas? That can be in terms of solutions or services, in terms of expansion, geographically, in terms of change in business model, or whatsoever. What are the key focus areas going to be in the next few quarters?
Sure, so when it comes to the expansion, right, I think that there are three areas that we're seriously looking at. One aspect is in terms of the geographical expansion. Right now, we are predominantly based out of Pune, and with the marketing presence in a couple of cities, we are looking at expanding in immediate quarter to the national, to have the national footprint, and maybe in the third quarter from now, perhaps have a presence outside country at an in Southeast Asia. So that's in terms of the geography part of it. Coming to the team size, we are kind of growing. We have tons of requirement, and honestly, we are running short in terms of resources. So we intend to grow our team at least by 200%. In next couple of quarters or so. Coming to the third part of it, which is basically around the technology, around the use cases, so we are definitely looking at expanding in terms of the security offerings. We are looking at expanding in terms of the managed services offerings, the serverless offerings that we have. We are also looking at various Web3 related technologies and solutions, whether it's around AI, ML, or blockchain and other technologies. So we do have very aggressive expansion and growth plans. And in terms of the revenue, we are looking at at least growing maybe 100% plus in the coming financial year.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, thanks Rajneesh.